I'm 68 years old, and the day my own children put me in a nursing home, they told me it was for my own good. That's the phrase people use when they've already made up their mind. It's for your own good. My name is Robert Miller. I worked 42 years as an electrician in Ohio. The kind of work that leaves your hands rough and your back aching long before retirement. But I never complained, because everything I did was for my family. My wife, Linda, and our 2 kids, Daniel and Sarah. Linda passed away 5 years ago. Cancer. Fast and cruel. After she was gone, the house felt too quiet. It was a small brick house in a quiet neighborhood. Nothing fancy. But I built half of it with my own hands. I installed every light fixture, every outlet. I even built the back porch myself. That house wasn't just property. It was my life. But to my children, it was something else. It was equity. It started slowly. First, Daniel began talking about how the house was too big for me. Then Sarah started mentioning assisted living communities. At first, I thought they were just worried about me. But one night at dinner, I realized something. They weren't worried. They had already decided. Daniel leaned back in his chair and said, "Dad, it's just not safe for you to live alone anymore." I looked at him. "I've lived here 40 years. Sarah chimed in. "Things change, Dad." Then Daniel said the sentence that told me everything. "And honestly, the house would be perfect for our family." "Not your house. Just the house." That's when I understood. They didn't want to help me. They wanted the house. 2 weeks later, they took me to visit a place called Willow Creek Senior Living. Clean hallways, beige walls, the smell of disinfectant and overcooked vegetables. A young woman at the front desk smiled and said, "You're going to love it here, Mr. Miller." I nodded politely, but I already knew something they didn't. I wasn't angry. I wasn't even surprised. I was just paying attention, because about 3 months earlier, something had happened, something my children knew nothing about, and it started with a nurse named Emily. Emily was the night nurse, maybe 30 years old, kind eyes, calm voice, the kind of person who still talks to older people like we're human beings. The first night I was there, she knocked on my door and said, "Mr. Miller, do you need anything before lights out?" I said, "You can call me Robert." She smiled. "Well, Robert, do you want some tea?" Nobody had asked me that in a long time. So we started talking. At first just small conversations. Weather. Her long shifts. My years working as an electrician. But over time she noticed something. Every weekend my kids would visit, for about 10 minutes. And every time the conversation was the same. "Dad, we're still working on cleaning out the house." "Dad, the realtor says the market is great." "Dad, you should really sign the paperwork soon." They talked about the house like I was already gone. One evening after they left, Emily sat down across from me. She looked uncomfortable. Then she said quietly, "Robert, can I ask you something?" "Sure. Do you actually want to live here?" I looked at her. Then I said the truth. "No." She nodded slowly. "I didn't think so." That night we talked for almost an hour. And for the first time, someone asked me what I wanted. Not what was convenient. Not what was practical. What I wanted. A week later she brought me a cup of tea again. And she said something that changed everything. "Robert, have you already transferred your house to your children?" I shook my head. "No." She leaned back and said, "Good." Then she said the sentence that started the whole plan. "You know, you still have choices." Most people think getting older means you lose control of your life. But that's only true if you stop paying attention. I hadn't. One morning Emily sat with me during her break. She asked me about the house. I told her everything. How Linda and I bought it in 1982. How we raised our kids there. How I built the porch where Linda used to drink coffee every morning. Emily listened carefully. Then she asked, "Do your kids help you financially?" I laughed. "No." "Do they take care of you?" "Not really." She nodded slowly. Then she said, "Robert, have you ever thought about what happens to the house after you're gone?" I said, "I assumed the kids would get it." She looked at me. "But do you want them to?" That question sat in the room like thunder. Because the truth was, I wasn't sure anymore. For months they had treated me like a problem to solve. A piece of furniture to move out of the way. And suddenly I realized something. The house wasn't just property. It was my decision. A few days later Emily helped me set up an appointment. With a lawyer. A quiet man named Thomas Green. His office smelled like old books and coffee. He listened while I explained everything. My kids. The nursing home. The pressure about the house. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair. Then he asked one simple question. "What do you want to happen to the house, Mr. Miller?" I thought about Linda. About the porch. About the years of work. Then I said something that surprised even me. I want it to go to someone who actually cares whether I'm alive. Mr. Green nodded. And just like that, the paperwork began. 3 months later my children called a family meeting. Daniel sounded excited on the phone. "Dad, we've got great news." I already knew what was coming. They picked me up from Willow Creek and drove me to the house. It looked exactly the same. The porch. The maple tree in the yard. But inside, everything felt different. Because now they saw it as theirs. We sat at the kitchen table. Sarah pulled out a stack of papers. "Dad, if you sign these, we can finalize the sale." Daniel smiled. "You'll have plenty of money for the nursing home." I looked at the papers. Then I looked at them. And I said calmly, "I already signed some papers." They both froze. Daniel frowned. "What do you mean?" I folded my hands on the table. "I updated my will." Sarah blinked. "Well, that's fine. The house still goes to us, right?" I shook my head slowly. "No." The room went completely silent. Daniel leaned forward. "Dad, what are you talking about?" I slid a copy of the document across the table. They read it, and their faces changed. First confusion, then disbelief, then anger. Because the house wasn't going to them. It was going to Emily, the nurse who had spent more time talking to me in 3 months than they had in 5 years. Sarah looked up first. "You gave the house to a stranger?" I shook my head. "No." Then I said the sentence I had waited months to say. "I gave it to the only person who treated me like family." Daniel pushed his chair back. "That's insane." But I stayed calm. Because for the first time in a long time, I was the one in control. Daniel stood up so fast the chair nearly fell over. "You can't be serious." Sarah looked like she was about to cry. "Dad, we're your children." I nodded slowly. "Yes, you are." Then I said something they didn't expect. "And that's exactly why this hurts." The kitchen went quiet. I looked around the room. The cabinets I installed myself. The scratches on the table from when the kids were little. Every corner of that house held memories. But memories don't mean much to people who only see dollar signs. Daniel rubbed his forehead. This woman manipulated you. I smiled. No, son. She listened to me. Sarah said, Dad, you don't even know her. I looked straight at her. I know that she asked me how my day was every single night. Neither of them had anything to say to that. Finally, Daniel spoke again. So that's it? You're just giving away the house. I shook my head. No. Then I pointed to the document. I'm giving it to someone who earned it. They argued for another 20 minutes. Voices raised. Accusations thrown. But the truth was simple. The decision had already been made, and there was nothing they could do about it. When the argument finally burned out, Daniel asked one last question. His voice was quieter this time. So what happens now? I stood up slowly. Then I said, Now, you drive me back to Willow Creek. But as we walked out the front door, I looked back at the house one last time. And for the first time since Linda died, I felt peace. Because that house was finally going to someone who understood something my children had forgotten. A home isn't about ownership. It's about care. 6 months later, something unexpected happened. Emily used part of the inheritance to fix up the house. New paint, a repaired porch, fresh flowers in the yard. Then one Sunday she drove to Willow Creek and said, Robert, I have something to show you. We drove back to the neighborhood. When we pulled up to the house, I noticed something new. A wooden sign on the porch. It said, Linda's house. Emily looked at me and said, I thought it should keep her name. I didn't say anything for a moment. Because sometimes gratitude doesn't come out as words. Sometimes it just sits in your chest, heavy and warm. And in that moment I realized something. My kids thought they were putting me in a nursing home so they could take my house. But what they really did was show me exactly who deserved it. And honestly, I don't regret my decision for a single second. Now I'm curious about something. If you were in my place, would you have done the same thing? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoy stories about real life, hard lessons, and a little bit of well-earned revenge, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next story.